U.S. immigration attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead, put your questions in the comments from now so that when I'm ready, I can just start running through your questions. Remember, this entire week we're talking about how to get the work permit and the green card, but I'm focusing on work permits here in the US. So let me know, just let me know here if you're able to hear me, because I'm seeing someone say no sound. So just let me know. Somebody else just confirm for me whether you can hear me. Um, uh, so I'm going to continue talking until I see someone just confirm whether there is no sound. And I do see, thanks for the love. So I'm thinking that means you can hear me. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about VAWA, right? So Monday, I talked about family-based. Thank you so much for confirming that. So Monday, we talked about getting the work permit through family, which includes VAWA, but VAWA deserves a day just on its own. Tuesday, we talked about asylum. Yesterday, I talked about the T. I also touched on an update regarding SB 17. So that's the bill in Florida that makes it very difficult for undocumented immigrants to work and for employers to hire undocumented immigrants. It is now a law. It is now a law in Florida because the governor has signed, Senate and the House have passed it, approved it. So it is set to go into effect July 1st. I believe they are going to challenge it, but we have to see whether they're going to put it on hold, whether they're going to it's usually called place an injunction on it, where they don't enforce the law until they sort through the court case, which is usually in the form of a lawsuit. So we'll have to see how that goes. But make sure you're coming up with a plan for yourself. If you're here working, just know that you could potentially lose that work because there are going to be some employers that are not going to take that risk anymore given this new law. And so, you have to evaluate your circumstances to determine whether it's safe for you, and be prepared for possibly not work available to you. And if that's the case, to, even look into other places where you can be able to feed your family and support yourself. So that's one thing to consider with this new law, and we'll just have to see how things play out. Unfortunately, I'll give you updates as new information comes in. Now, let's talk about VAWA, right? And it's good to hear this because for those of you you're here in Florida, and you do have, because being undocumented, let me just let this be known, because on the videos that I've been doing, believe it or not, even though we want to look out for each, and including people who don't have official immigration status here, I aim to be kind. I know we're not perfect, but I think one of the principles that we should live by every day is be kind. We don't know what the other person is going through. We just have to see each other as imperfect human beings. And so, despite what we're all going through, we need to be kind. And I've seen some really horrible comments under the videos I've done about this bill. And it amazes me that people can have so much hate for other human beings that contribute so much, just because of an immigration status. And they make it look like undocumented immigrants. So they will use words like illegal. No human being is illegal, but they choose to use these terms to degrade other human beings and make them feel as if just by existing, they're not supposed to exist. And I want you to know that being undocumented does not mean that you're doing something wrong or that there's no solution for you. That's one of my goals as an immigration attorney. Get a place where they can have all the resources they need to make a better life here in the United States. So being undocumented does not mean that you have no solutions here. This is why I do what I do, and this is why I come on the live every day to educate you about solutions. Even though some individuals, circumstances may have to change before something can happen for them. Maybe it's being undocumented may be beyond their control, like individuals who qualify for DACA. It's beyond their control because maybe they were brought here as children. And that does not mean that you are wrong. You're wrong. You're not to exist in a place. You don't have rights. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help a fellow human being to achieve the goals they need to achieve. And it's to find the solutions where I can find solutions for people to achieve their goals when they're undocumented. Undocumented does not mean that I'm not supposed to help you. It doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be helped, right? So this is what I do is I also help my clients to find solutions. And so this is why, and one of the solutions is to be able to have the work permit, to gain a work permit, and to gain other types of statuses here. And so I touch on the kinds of statuses that can help undocumented immigrants go from not having their papers to having the papers they need to achieve their personal goals. So this whole if you are watching me for the first time this week, just know that this whole week is dedicated to work permits, how to get the work permit through the immigration process. And if you don't have current status, watch this because it means that I could be talking about a solution for you, right? All right, so let's get started with VAWA. VAWA is one of those ways. Now, if you have been watching me, which I see a lot of my friends here already, so you're probably going to be bored when I do the initial introduction about VAWA. All right, VAWA is the Violence Against Women's Act, though. And even though it says Violence Against Women's Act, it covers everybody, men, women, and children, boy, girls. Now, with this, it focuses on people who are here. You could be in status, you could be out of status. You're here, and you are being mistreated by a citizen or resident spouse, a parent. And in the case of the parent, you have to be under 21 to apply for this. But if you're under 25 and you have been here in the US and you didn't know about VAWA, or your parents, somehow the mistreatment that your parent subjected you to caused you to not look for this kind of relief, you could apply for this as well, as long as you don't get to the age of 25. And then the other is if you have a US citizen, son or daughter, who's aged 21 and up, and they've mistreated you, you can qualify for this relief. And what this relief does is it allows you to apply for your own green card. So you may not be in a position, or this relative may not be offering you a solution to fix your status because they are mistreating you. You may not trust them because maybe they've threatened to sabotage your immigration process. So this has caused you to not move forward with the process, or you may be in the middle of the process right now, and you may get to a point where you feel like you can't trust them because of the mistreatment. And if you feel like you can't trust this relative because they're mistreating you or subjecting you to extreme cruelty, then you could apply for this, where it's just like you apply for your own green card. You sign the papers. Nobody else signs the papers. You submit the evidence. Nobody else is required to submit evidence. The immigration, under the law, they're not supposed to disclose that you're even applying for this outside of the agency. They can one of the reasons why a lot of people may hesitate to apply for this is they think their relative is going to get into trouble. They think law enforcement is going to be involved, or law enforcement has to be involved. They think that their relative is going to find out and retaliate against them, and none of these will happen. They do have safeguards. The Immigration Service does have safeguards in place to keep your process confidential. They don't even accept phone calls about your case. So when we represent our clients, we have a special attorney email that where we contact the unit that's dealing with this case directly, because they don't even trust an individual over the phone, because they know that it could be a relative, could be somebody trying to fish for information, and so they do not discuss any of your cases on the phone. It's that confidential. So I would say, if you want to look out for your best interest, and you are in, and you may not have ever filed for your papers, because they may not, you are never in a position to apply with this spouse or this parent or this son or daughter, a citizen son or daughter who's mistreating you. So you may not have any papers. If and this applies to you, you may be in the middle of the process, or you may have even been denied previously because your relative sabotaged your process or didn't finish out your process. You also can qualify for this as long as this happened. The next question I usually get is, well, I don't have any evidence. And it's sad to say that, other attorneys will that misunderstand how people qualify for VAWA, because it's something where you really have to be experienced with this process to properly advise each client on their possibilities of success during the process. But you do have attorneys out there that when other people come, so people have come to me after they've consulted with other attorneys, like, the other attorney told me I didn't qualify. So it will be a situation where the spouse or the relative was yelling at them, calling them names, threatening their immigration status, short of threatening them physically, even though maybe they never got physically abused. And they would tell them they don't qualify. Police have to be involved. They have to have evidence. They have to have a lot of evidence to show that this happened. Not true. Not true. So first of all, if you are going through mistreatment, you don't deserve that. You are not supposed to sit down with someone who's going to degrade you, who's going to put you through hell. Nobody should be doing that, and nobody should be putting up with that to get an immigration status. And that is the purpose of VAWA here. It's not to see how bad was your abuse, how bad was the extreme cruelty. It has to really be bad. You have to show that it has to be really bad to get relief, right? How wrong would that be if the law says that you have to show that it was worse than others to get it? So doesn't make sense under the law, that they're going to say, oh, you suffered more abuse than this person, so you don't get it because you didn't suffer severe as this other. If you Abuse is abuse, mistreatment is mistreatment, verbal, mental, emotional, financial. If this person is taking all your money, if they're gambling your money away, if you hardly have any money to pay the bills because this person keeps taking your money, or they're depriving you of money, they're depriving you of the ability to work to help yourself, that's extreme cruelty and abuse. All of those qualify here. So back to evidence, right? There is often an imbalance in power in a relationship like that. So you'll have the spouse who is the one that is subjecting their immigrant spouse to extreme cruelty or abuse. They will often set it up so that the immigrant spouse, doesn't have access to evidence. They will cover up their actions to make sure that the spouse does not have the ability to show this level of cruelty or abuse. So it's very common. And what I would say here is that it's going to differ. Evidence is going to differ based on the circumstances. But what they do accept is any credible evidence. That could be your statement, your credible statement. Credible means believable. It has to be believable evidence. So if you have text messages of this back and forth, you may not have pictures, you don't have a police report. Why would you have a police report if somebody's just calling you names, right? That's how we think. If somebody's calling you names, would you call the police? And what would the police say if they came on the scene and you said this person just called me this name? The police would probably laugh, right? If they said, well, you're calling me because you're being verbally abused, right? So usually the police come on scene when there's a physical, or it's close to physical, or there are threats. But in some situations where there's verbal abuse, you know, of course, if you feel threatened, you should call the police, definitely, for your own safety and well-being. Definitely do that. But in most instances, nobody is going to call the police for verbal abuse, right? Hardly anybody is going to call because you were called this name. But that does qualify you for VAWA, right? So it's not there just for people who have a police report and have all of this documentation, this public documentation of the mistreatment, but it's also for those who went through private abuse, private mistreatment. This person may be the nicest person in public. They may be so relatable to the people around you, but in private, they're embarrassing you. They're subjecting you to shame. They're controlling and manipulative, and that does count as well. So keep that in mind, that you do qualify for this, and the evidence is really going to depend here, but it could be your statement, as long as the statement is submitted properly with the sufficient detail needed for the officer to accept it as credible evidence. So, that's in regards to evidence. So, what do you get? What do you get when you're applying for this? And then on YouTube, just let me know, is the audio good? Because the screen just blacked out for a minute. So, if one of you can just, I know Avril said video is better, but that was earlier on. Somebody can just put a statement in the comments just saying, you can hear me. So I know that yesterday the audio was really terrible, and I don't want that to happen again. So just let me know if the audio is off, just let me know. All right, so what do you get, right? So applying for VAWA, you first have to submit your petition. And for some individuals, most individuals right now, you submit your I-360. Oh, thanks so much, Avril and Rose. Thanks so much. So you submit your I-360 petition. This is where you're going to talk about the mistreatment that you experienced, but there's a form that also goes with the evidence. The I-485, which is adjustment of status. And the reason you're submitting an adjustment of status is because you're also able to apply for the green card at the same time. Most individuals right now do qualify to do that right now. Then you apply for the work permit and the travel document all in one. Now, when you apply for this, you are going to, so the whole point of this is you're going to be able to get a work permit and travel document while you wait for the entire process to be completed. I'm seeing work permits and travel documents coming from anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. So it's a little backed up. So it's 6 months to 12 months to be able to get the work permit. But this process is about a 2.5-year process from beginning to green card. So, you can continue to renew the work permit while you wait. And the work permit is valuable because you are able to get a head start on life. You can get any job you want with a work permit. Any job. You're not limited to who you work for, where you go, what you do. You can work anywhere in the country with the work permit. It's a 2-year work permit that's renewable as long as your process is going forward. You can travel outside of the country with the travel document. Of course, I do advise on a case by case basis, just because sometimes the risk may be higher for some on travel than others, but the travel document is always an option. So, and keep even think looking at this situation now here in Florida, if you do have a work permit, you're not covered under this Florida bill. You can legally work here. It doesn't matter if you haven't officially gotten your immigration status yet, as long as you can show you have authorization to work, you're not going to be restricted by the bill in Florida. So it is a valuable form of relief. And so not because you're undocumented doesn't mean that these kinds of solutions you don't have to have, that these solutions aren't available to you, right? These solutions that I'm bringing up, these are specifically for people who are looking for to be able to get their status here, their official status here in the United States. Now, let me mention this piece too. Are you a step parent? Are you a stepchild? You're covered under this as well. You can get relief if you are a stepchild under immigration law. If you are a step parent of a US citizen who is age 21, you can qualify for this. If the spouse divorced you have 2 years to apply for this after the divorce. If that a spouse passed away, the spouse, the parent, the child passed away, but this you were mistreated by them, you can qualify. If the spouse, if the permanent resident spouse or parent were deported, lost their status. They never became citizens, but they lost their permanent residence and got deported. You can still qualify for this, but you have 2 years to apply. So if you are in a common law marriage that's accepted in the state where you're living, you're not official, you didn't go through a traditional marriage, but you have a common law marriage, you can qualify for this. So the option is much broader than just a spousal relationship or just a parent-child relationship. It covers step parents, adopted, so adoptive parents, adopted children, stepchildren, step parents, parents or children where the relative has passed away and it's been less than 2 years or they got deported, then they also qualify as well. So keep those in mind. So where you're saying, not me, I can't qualify for this, if you can relate to any one of these categories that I've listed, it's time to call me and let's talk about your situation and get started on the solution here. So we can get your work permit, get your green card, and get the ball moving. Now, another benefit here is your children, because some people will stick it out with the spouse, for example, because they think their children also need status and the only way is through the spouse. Your children get to go on the application with you as long as they're under 21 and unmarried. So the children have this option as well. If they don't have an independent option, then the children have the option through their parent, and children under immigration law are under 21 and unmarried. All right, so now I'm going to go to questions. So go ahead, give me a call. Now is the time to evaluate your options. Let's figure out some solutions. And if this is the first time you're watching this live, I've been talking about ways to get the work permit all week. So watch those past 3 lives so you can get some more information about how to get your work permit. Now let's go through questions. I see a number of them on YouTube, so I'm going to start here on YouTube. So hi there, VAWA C9 category. I gave biometrics for I-360 and I-485, 425. Now, next biometric for I-131, 516, 24 is normal. Yes, sometimes that happens. So I wouldn't worry too much. Just make sure you make every single appointment. For example, we have seen that for the I-360 separately from the I-485. So it doesn't mean that there's something wrong. Just make sure you go to every appointment. Don't assume I did the last one, so I don't have to do this one. Go to all your biometrics appointments. I filed my case since 2022, did biometrics December 2022. After 9 months of waiting, they apply for my biometrics to my C9 I-765 application. What is the waiting time before I get? So I would say on the 12-month mark is where, at the latest is where I see it. So 12 and a half months is the maximum time that I've seen. And thanks so much for your feedback, Avril. I appreciate it. How long does it take to get green card after approval of I-360? So I'd say 6 months to a year. So as soon as you get approved for the VAWA, they jump straight into evaluating your green card application. And they may schedule you for an interview, or they may send your green card in the mail. They'll let you know what they plan to do. I did my biometrics through VAWA for I-131 and I-765. How long those take to get my EAD and AP? So up to 12 months. I called on Friday. So I called on Friday to talk to you, but your assistant said that you will call back on Monday. So keep in mind that when you call the office, you're going to talk to staff. However, I don't call anybody back individually. What you have to do is go on my schedule. So go ahead, call back the office, schedule your appointment. And as soon as you're on my calendar, then we can talk. And my calendar is full, so I don't really have much time to just call anybody back that's not on the calendar. So the way to do that is a consultation. First, biometrics, I-485, I-360 code, 3-second biometrics for travel document. So I'm not sure about the codes. But it's not out of the ordinary to have multiple biometrics. Good day. Thanks for all the information. I'm here waiting for my green card through VAWA. My daughter's in Jamaica. How long do I have to wait for her to get here? So after you get your permanent residence, then at that point, they will send that through to the, after you get your green card, then they send it to Jamaica, and then she goes into process there. So because the I think waiting for interviews in Jamaica is the longest, most frustrating aspect of this, especially when you're dealing with green card, immigrant visa. So I would say prepare for a year to a year and a half because you do have to submit additional documentation to the National Visa Center and go through the motions there. So I'd say a year to a year and a half to get through that side of the process. All right. I'm in Florida and don't know where to go, and suggestions I can. Okay, so good. Well, I don't want to be able to suggest anywhere to go. It really comes down to your particular circumstances. Where do you have family? Where do you have connections? But unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to advise on places to go outside of Florida. My boyfriend is undocumented in the USA. I'm in Canada. Can my boyfriend Facebook. Okay, so I think I'm back. Okay, thanks for your patience. Thank you for your patience. I'm back. I should be back. So April, just let me know if it's again. I should be back on track. But so your boyfriend is undocumented. The unlawful presence waiver is usually reserved for immigrants who they have a spouse, a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse or parent who will experience extreme hardship if they don't get the green card. So it's a lot more complex than just applying for an unlawful presence waiver. You have to qualify for this waiver and you have to be applying for a certain benefit to get the waiver. Thanks, April. I appreciate that. All right, so let me run through. I don't want to lose connection again. So let me just quickly run through more questions. So I'm on Instagram. So if you have questions, put those questions in ASAP. So all right. I'm keeping an eye on the comments. How does advanced parole work if you have no criminal record? So advanced parole is where you get a travel document to leave the country and be able to come back into the country. Usually you can apply for this if you have certain, so for example, like DACA, or if you have TPS, then you can apply for that if you want, if you have to travel outside of the country and it allows you to come back in. So the criminal record, if you don't have a criminal record, it means that that's great for you and the advanced parole. Hey, I'm doing VAWA. How long does it take to get the work permit? So I'd say 6 months to up to a year. I've been waiting almost a year. Yep. So you could be looking at up to a year. I think 12.5 months is the longest time I've waited to see my client's work permit. But I'm in removal proceedings. I'm so anxious. Yep, that is stressful. Okay, so I see here someone answered 5 months. So not necessarily true. I would say the realistic is about 6 to 12 months. I did biometrics and have prima facie, but now waiting. Yes, so it's just a waiting game. I'm okay with immigration. Okay, so I think you're talking yourselves. So let me see. Hi, I've filed 1 month now for VAWA, but I got no receipt notice. I would say wait 2 to 3 months. 2 to 3 months. Hi there, baby girl. Our card. It's nice to see you. 2 to 3 months. I'm noticing it's a little backed up right now. Can I file for my travel document after I receive my EAD? Yes, you can. Can I file for my travel document after I receive my EAD card? I did not file it with my other documents. Yes, you can. You might wait for a little bit though. I have a friend who used to live in MD with her baby father at his parents' house. The baby mother and his mother weren't getting along. Stepfather is a deadbeat and she got a second baby with the guy. So I'm not sure where that's going, but usually facts like this amount to VAWA or T status. So I'll look out for any follow-up that you may have there. Married to a US citizen, but he refuses to file my AOS. So that's where you get in touch with us and we can help you with that, because this is whenever which spouse refuses, what kind of spouse refuses to get their spouse, their immigrant spouse status that's going to safeguard them from the stressful situation of being deported or not getting a job, being called, all sorts of being, excluded from opportunities in the United States. Which spouse is going to do that? That's usually the red flag for a spouse that's, doing something to mistreat you or they're subjecting you to cruelty. So that alone may very well qualify you. How long do VAWA case processing times take to get a VAWA approved? So about 2.5 years. Hey, how long does it take to get the work permit while in removal proceedings? So I would say up to a year. She may know in a limbo, doesn't know what to do. The baby father isn't helpful. Tell her to call. These are the kind of cases I work with, and we can help her to find a solution. I have will it take 5 years? I have a strong case. I'm not sure what will. Hi, I just submitted the application for my husband, just got the receipt. How long does the process take? He's in Jamaica. Prepare for a solid 2 years. Solid, long time, don't hear. I'm so glad to see you, baby girl. What form number is the travel document? I-131. Hi there, sexy Nunas. Nice to see you. That girl, yes. So you're welcome. Get in touch with us and we can talk. Good morning. Can I file for my green card 2 years? Yes, as long as your daughter is unmarried, then you can file. However, the length of time may vary depending on who, her age. My parents have two of my sisters over 21. Both my parents came to the US through New Jersey airport, but illegally with other names. Is there any way to get them the work permit? It depends on what their other situation is. If they came in, how do they qualify? I have to evaluate their circumstances. Do they, if your parents are here, why did they come in? Was it someone who told them to come in with their passports like that? Was it an employer who let them do that? What's their current situation with the employer, if it's an employer that did that? So there are so many things that we would have to evaluate to determine whether there are options. But just coming in and doing it with fake names is not going to qualify you. So the work permit is not a situation where you just go and pick up the work permit application and apply. You have to make sure that you qualify in some way. Will bringing removal proceedings slow down my VAWA process or getting the work permit? So what will happen though, keep in mind, if you're going through removal proceedings, your attorney, first of all, your attorney needs to advise you. But the removal proceedings are going to go forward unless you go back to the court and you let them know that you have this VAWA process pending. The USCIS, they will continue to process it. And then if it gets approved, you can always go back to the court. But you're going to have to work with the court. You can't ignore the court and just deal with the USCIS. So get that. If you don't have an attorney, make sure you get one because this is a lot more complex. All right, I have to head out. Thanks so much, everyone. I know I didn't get to some of your questions, but tomorrow I'll be back and we'll talk about a topic, how to get that work permit again. So join me tomorrow again around lunchtime. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.